Zamasu.
Both the anime and the manga begin the same. Trunks is running from some unknown force. Now, while a lot of the imagery is the same, there is a really neat Easter egg in the manga, and that is this newspaper right here, which says it's the 9th anniversary since the defeat of the androids, possibly 8th or 9th. Ignoring the grammatical mistake, it states that the war was over and there was finally peace in the world. Just really good juxtaposition with what we see happening in the world now. Now, in the manga, Trunks basically escapes and makes it to Mai. Mai asks, what about Bulma? And he says, Bulma didn't make it. Now, of course, that's really devastating when you think about it. Like, oh my god, Bulma's dead? In the anime, however, Trunks stops and visits Bulma first. So, this first difference we see here is that it's a timing thing. The manga takes place right after Bulma's killed. The anime takes place right before she's killed, and then it will eventually get to the same point. He sees Bulma, and Bulma basically says that, they only have enough fuel for a one-way trip, but he'll find a way, so, don't give up hope, the whole thing. And we see Bulma get killed. I like the anime difference here better, just for the fact that any long, time fan of Dragon Ball seeing Bulma get killed in any reality is a sad thing to see. So I do think that the anime does have a strength there. Back in the main timeline, things start very differently. The anime starts off being a lot more lighthearted with really silly gags. Goku's doing farming. Piccolo shows up and they kind of have a little race doing their farming. Kuririn shows up and says, that Vegeta's out training alone, with Whis and Beerus. Therefore, Goku's like, hey, that's not fair. I want to go too. And then we get Goku to go train with them. In the manga, things begin a little bit differently. So we begin at Capsule Corp. Goku and Vegeta are already there. They're kind of sparring. Jaco visits Bulma to tell her, hey, I heard from your sister about you and time travel. That's a punishable offense. She's like, hey, that was my future self. I got no interest in that. We then do get some comedy, which is, the homeschooling that Trunks has with the Pilaf gang. This exists in both anime and manga. Same design to the teacher and everything. So Toriyama probably definitely had a hand in this for I guess you could say the comedic moments. But what the manga does a little bit differently is, while they're having their lesson just so happens to be on parallel universes, which of course we understand in the Dragon Ball version of time travel is very similar to the Avengers version of time travel, that, if you change something in the past, it branches off and creates a new reality. So they give us an entire lesson in the manga about the teacher telling them how it works. And it's kind of neat for one reason that, either A, people who are just new to Dragon Ball starting off with Super, which a lot of young viewers would have been. They didn't maybe, read the old manga yet. Or fans of the original Dragon Ball who just forgot, how Toriyama's time traveling worked, so explaining it to us once again. So I do think the manga does handle this well by giving that little bit of a refresher course using the homeschooling teacher. Back in Trunks' timeline, both the anime and the manga are very much the same, where Trunks and Mai are attacked, Mai is presumed dead, and Trunks has to escape in the time machine. The manga does have a cool little thing where Trunks shows off some cool, I guess I would say, fighting technique. He uses the sheath of his sword to block an attack. It's just something I thought it was really cool looking. But aside from that, everything else ends the same. Trunks escapes in the time machine. Although Bulma is not featured in the manga, at the end of the chapter, Toyotaro gives us an extra, as I've been pointing out in this series. He does at the end of every chapter. This one is absolutely gut-wrenching. So it's Bulma. She's working on the time machine talking to Trunks. She first has the line that's exactly the same as in the anime, which is, there's only enough fuel for a one-way trip, but you'll find a way back. I know you will. She just believes in her son, that he'll be able to do it. He gives her this extra line, which is, she says, better yet, why don't the three of us just go and live there in the past timeline? When you know that she doesn't make it, it's just like, oh my God, it's just heartbreaking. That part of her thought, if there was no way to stop Black, maybe they should just go live together in peace. And it's like, damn, yeah. So that little extra bit of dialogue that's not in the anime, that is amazing. That's just a really nice little, I guess, addition to it, that when you finish that chapter, you just go, oh, that's just really nice.
今までに食べたことがないとびっきりの美味なるものなら手を打とう。乗ったおやつなら魚肉ソーセージ。なんだこれは。なんでしょう。うまい。
Now, of course, in the anime, as I've been pointing out, things are played way too much for laughs sometimes. So in the anime, Beerus and Whis kind of have no interest that Trunks' timeline has some big issue happening. Like clearly someone's been messing with time. If someone who looks like Goku is like destroying his world, and they're just more like they don't care, they just want to eat. In the manga, Whis and Beerus immediately become interested in what's happening because that doesn't sound right. It sounds like someone's doing something they shouldn't. And that is really good writing, I feel, because Whis especially, even though he has we learned in this, story arc here, we learn he's an angel, he can't really get involved, but at the same time, he knows that something is happening that shouldn't be happening. And right from the get-go, Whis is asking Trunks a lot of questions. So I do think that part of the differences here, the manga just really nails it, instead of just having them care about eating, yummy foods. Following this, Beerus really becomes interested when he says, yeah, this sounds like whatever's happening in your world sounds really tough, but why haven't I destroyed this person in your world yet? The god of destruction. He's like, I'm assuming I'm the god of destruction there. And Trunks has no idea what that is. And therefore, of course, Whis is wondering, is there no god of destruction in that world? Because if things were going that poorly in a universe where someone was completely devastating the entire universe, that's when the god of destruction would have to step in to stop them. Why I'm saying this is only the manga, because the manga is far better written in the story. It's brought up about Majin Buu later. And a lot of people wondered, is it bad writing on, Toriyama to introduce this god of destruction? That's, he's a god. A lot of people don't, forget this, that Beerus is a good guy. And his job, per se, a lot of times, is to make sure there is, I guess you could say, almost like to maintain the universe, to make sure things are kind of kept in check. So Majin Buu becoming a universal threat that would destroy everything possibly, why wouldn't Beerus at that point, stop Majin Buu? It is addressed directly in the manga when they wonder why, Goku and gang had to take care of Majin Buu, and Kaioshin and all them, they were all struggling to fight Majin Buu. And he's like, well, what about Beerus? Beerus was sleeping. So, because Beerus likes to take naps. He's a cat. People forget that's a joke, so he's always sleeping. So they do kind of like give a nice little joke, and I could probably see Toriyama writing that, oh yeah, why didn't he do anything during the Majin Buu? Because he was taking a nap. He was sleeping, and he slept through the whole thing. Therefore, that's why. If he hadn't been sleeping, he probably would have stepped in and destroyed Majin Buu. This takes us to the end of Volume 2. Now, at the end of the volume, we get a bonus chapter. Just like in Volume 1, it's a chapter that kind of fills in some gaps, but also being a little tongue-in-cheek with the humor. We're taken back to Trunks' timeline when the androids first attack. You got, Vegeta, Piccolo, all of them are out fighting the androids. Bulma's out in her ship flying around. We see Gohan escaping from the battle, trying to basically, Bulma finds him and he says, hurry, we've got to get the Dragon Balls. Piccolo might die soon. And if we hurry up and get the Dragon Balls, we can use the Dragon Balls to help somehow. They then go to get the Dragon Balls. On their way, Pilaf and them are summoning Shenron to make their wish to make them really, really young, he says. So he's not specific with how old. Whereas as we saw in Daima recently, Shenron actually asked, he's like, well, exactly how old do you want them to be? Here, he's just like, make us really, really, really young, and he turns them all into infants. Of course, that means, Gohan and them can't get the Dragon Balls in time. The Dragon Balls go away, and he screams, Piccolo! And then we see like a little thing at the end of Piccolo with the halo around his head, all angry because of what happened, because of Pilaf making his wish that they couldn't use the Dragon Balls to somehow help. I don't know how they were going to use them. And therefore, Piccolo and the rest die, and the rest is history. Now, in the anime, Beerus, of course, immediately gets upset when he hears about them using time travel. And then Trunks is like, no, please don't destroy us for using the time machine. And after some gags, basically Vegeta asks him, he's like, okay, so is your new enemy Majin Buu? And then, in the manga, it's actually the opposite. It's Goku who says, let me guess, it's Majin Buu. And it's kind of interesting that, the one version's Goku asking the question, one version's Vegeta. But in both versions, Trunks says, no, I took care of Babidi and Dabura before Majin Buu could be resurrected. The manga has this really awesome little thing. It's small. It's just Vegeta who basically says, that's my boy. And it's just like, oh my God. Like, it's just really cool to see Vegeta kind of feeling it like, yeah, that's my kid. He saved the entire world before Majin Buu even came out, and just taking pride in that his son was that good, to save the day on his own. So I just think that's a really cool little extra thing. Whereas in the anime, Vegeta doesn't even acknowledge that Trunks did, a great feat.
バビディの2人を倒し魔人ブーの出現を阻止しました。その後です。さらに恐ろしい敵が現れたのは。
Speaking of Trunks taking care of Babidi and Dabura, this is where things begin to become extremely different. In the anime, it's just a quick shot. We see, Trunks take care of Babidi and Dabura, and it's done. They move on with the Goku Black story, and it has nothing to do with that story anymore. Trunks taking care of Babidi and Dabura. In the manga, Whis first asks him, hey, so you fought against Babidi and Dabura. Was Kaioshin with you? Or, he's just wondering. Whis knows pretty much everything that happens. And then he's like, yeah, and he died. Whis then drops the bombshell. Well, if Kaioshin died, there is no god of destruction in your universe. Everyone there is like, wait, what? And he explains how they're linked. If a Kaioshin ceases to exist, then the god of destruction will cease to exist. How that makes it like that. Now, this is going to be important for the story, as we'll get to in a second. It's important for like how Beerus and Whis are able to learn who's behind everything, because it's actually completely different with how they learn in the anime. So in the anime, they do kind of learn this information as well, but it's only Goku. When Goku goes to meet Zeno-sama, Zenchan, and he basically then learns about how they're linked. Whis tells him, but it's only Goku who's there. Nobody else is with him. Here, the whole gang's there, and they learn about this really important thing they probably shouldn't be telling everybody, is how the Kaioshin and the gods of destruction are linked. As I said, this difference is huge. Why is it huge, this difference? Because we get a huge flashback. I'm talking about huge. The manga decides to tell us that, yeah, Trunks, by the way, when Babidi and Dabura came to Earth and all that stuff, Kaioshin did come to Earth, to get help, but he could only find Trunks, of course, in that timeline. Therefore, they bring Trunks to Kaioshinkai, their world, and to train with the Zed sword. That's insane, actually. So we see him in the same kind of clothing Gohan was wearing, training. However, what happens is he doesn't get to finish his training. He doesn't accidentally break the sword open, which, of course, Elder Kai comes out of. That never happens. Instead, Babidi is immediately on the move, and they have to go. So they go, they have their big fight. Kibito dies against Dabura the same exact way, blowing him up. So that's kind of funny. He dies in both worlds the same way. The sword then gets Dabura's spin on it, turning it to stone, which completely destroys it. The fight then continues, but we don't see the Elder Kai come out, which is interesting. Why not? When Gohan broke the sword, the Elder Kai came out. We'll get there. So as we move on here, the fight is pretty good. Trunks is struggling now. We do get a really cool blink and you'll miss it kind of moment where you see the dead bodies of Pui Pui and Yakon. So that means Trunks had already killed like all of Babidi's guys, and now it's just Dabura. Kaioshin gets beaten down hard, and Babidi's beating him down. This, of course, Trunks gets upset, goes Super Saiyan 2, and then easily is able to take out Dabura, but with Kaioshin's help. Kaioshin's able to kind of like freeze Dabura into place. This takes everything out of him, and Kaioshin dies. So this gives us our awesome flashback, is that how Trunks, went through all this training. You're probably still saying, well, it's not really changing much in the story to know this. When we get later in the story arc, this will be brought back to explain that this training actually did a lot more for Trunks than we all realize. At the end of the chapter, we do get an extra that explains why we didn't see Elder Kai. And we see Elder Kai's spirit, he's dead, saying that basically when the sword was destroyed in that matter, he basically died while still trapped in the sword. Kind of hinting that Dabura's spit being from maybe Daima, like that, like the magical stuff or whatever about it. Probably, it had it sealed in, so he couldn't get out. Even though the sword was broken, he was probably sealed in still, and therefore dies inside the sword, according to what Elder Kai says. Just really funny.
Super Saiyajin Son Gokuの力。私は奴の戦い様を我が身に刻むことができた。これは私の強さをさらに完璧にするだろう。
The next major difference is in the manga, Goku Black is looking around looking for Trunks. I don't know where he went. And then he doesn't know. There's nothing he can do. He doesn't know where Trunks went, so he doesn't follow after him. In the anime, as we all know, his ring tells him that he went back into another timeline in the past, and he follows. He goes there. This, of course, gives us his confrontation with Goku and them. He sees Beerus and Whis are there. He's, Goku Vegeta are still alive in this timeline, so it's very different than the timeline he knows. His fight with Goku is important. His fight with Goku is his motivation to get stronger. When he gets sucked back into his, back to the future, I guess you could say, basically now he has a reason. Okay, Goku and Vegeta are still alive somewhere. Beerus is still alive in another timeline. So he's like, I have to get stronger. Hence, he trains himself to go Super Saiyan Rose. Though the anime does have another reason for this scene. The ring. As they highlighted, the ring is how he found where Trunks went. The ring is what Whis and Beerus notice when he arrives. And Whis immediately says, look, that ring. And he's like, yeah, I see it. So, of course, that's how they then learn that there's some connection to the Kaioshin, because they don't know who he is, but they just know that the only way he would have that ring, which is in Universe 10, that kind of helps them then track down who's behind everything, which begins like an investigation, something that's only really in the anime. Because in the manga, they immediately learn who's behind it, which is really interesting, and we're going to get there right now. But in the anime, instead, it's more like a detective story, if you will. They have to find these clues to find out who's behind it, and it's a mystery. It's a big surprise reveal later on as well, which is not in the manga. Another anime exclusive thing is this episode where Trunks visits Gohan. This isn't my top 10 tear-jerker moments in Dragon Ball because anyone who loves the history of Trunks kind of TV special, him losing, Gohan was a big thing. And being able to see that there is a world out there where Gohan got to grow up, become a scholar, find someone, make a family, and just live happily ever after is awesome. And it's just such a nice thing that they added. They don't need to add it. It doesn't add much to the story. Gohan's not part of the story. But I do think for fans of Future Trunks, it is really good to see this. And I think it's helps his character, if you will, to see that someone he, mourns for all the time, somewhere out there is living a happy life. And I do like that. We then get the next major difference, which is our introduction to Zamasu. In the manga, we are taken to Universe 10, where Kibito is sparring with Zamasu while Kaioshin and Gowasu watch. Zamasu gets the better of him. They all praise him, saying, wow, you're such a great fighter. And we do learn this in the anime as well, that he's, a renowned fighter. Then he's like, you guys deserve some praise as well. I heard you guys took care of Majin Buu. Kaioshin's like, yeah, we had the help of Goku and his friends. Who's Goku, he says. And of course they tell him, he learns that a mortal was able to take out Majin Buu. That's just insane. A mortal shouldn't be that strong. Majin Buu was like considered a god enemy. He was created to take out the gods. And therefore the fact that a mortal was able to take him out, he doesn't like that. And we do see here those seeds of his hatred towards men. In the anime, we meet Zamasu because Goku, Beerus, and Whis go to visit Universe 10 after the ring, and they go to look into the ring. Goku meets Zamasu, and it's like, hey, you're supposed to be a fighter, I heard. Let's spar. And of course, that's where we learn Zamasu is like, oh, immortal, why is immortal here? And then when he fights him, Goku beats him. He really gets upset that immortal is that strong. So I do think both versions handle it the same way. But one thing the anime does very differently is they make it personal. Zamasu hates Goku specifically. We'll see this later on when he tells Goku gleefully how he killed his family, which is only in the anime. In the manga, there is no technical personal connection to Goku. It's more that Goku was the name that was dropped of the man who beat Majin Buu, and therefore he looks into Goku, watches the videos of him during the Universe 6 tournament, and therefore chooses Goku because he's strong. That's the only reason why. He doesn't care about Goku in any other way. The anime, though, leans heavily into, no, he doesn't like Goku, and this is personal for him. So I do think both versions are good in this. I like the personal touch because I think that a villain, who has a personal connection to the hero is always nice, it just creates more tension. But at the same time, when you read the manga is so well written, you don't need it. You don't need that personal connection to Goku at all. He's just a villain out to do his own thing. By chance, Goku was who he chose, and that's all you need to know.
こ れで終わりだ。
この感覚は
ウィス感じたが。
はい。
There's another anime exclusive I really like, and that is Vegeta's speech to Trunks. It's in my top 10 Vegeta moments video, but basically Vegeta has this moment where he gives this motivational speech to his son and just telling him how you're my son, and because you're my son, you'll never give up. And it's just a really good moment. The manga does have a similar scene. First, they have to play Mario Kart. I kid you not, there's an entire thing where they're playing Mario Kart. It's pretty funny. Beerus is playing as well. Future Trunks wins. Kid Trunks says, how was it? He's like, it was fun. So Vegeta says to him, why do you care about such a trivial thing like this? Vegeta was playing too, by the way. Trunks says, it's been so long since I've seen everybody smiling like this, such a peaceful kind of environment. Goku steps in and is like, don't worry, I'll take care of everything. I'll fix your future for you. Vegeta's like, why you? I'm the one who's going to do it. Trunks, listening to both of them, decides to speak up. He's like, if you don't mind, I'd like to join the fight as well. Showing that Trunks does plan on trying to end this himself as well, even if he does have help. Vegeta likes hearing this to the point that he says, so you want to really join the fight? It seems like he's a little angry almost. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, you better be awake bright and early tomorrow morning and join me in the gravity room. And he's like, because we're going to train. And it's just so cool because if you remember, of course, in the Cell Saga, Vegeta was more reluctant about it. He's like, I have no choice. Fine, you come with me and train with me. Here, he's like taking his son with him to train with him on purpose. And I just think, wow, what, just that big, 360 with Vegeta's character to see that. And I just think, again, the manga and the anime both have these scenes where Vegeta is just shown being such a good father. So following this chapter is a Toyotaro extra that's just a kind of a cute bonus, I guess you could say. And it's Beerus playing Mario Kart by himself say, now's my chance when nobody's around to practice and get better, with little Trunks watching behind, like watching him as he's practicing. So it's just funny that Beerus really does have fun and he wants to get better at Mario Kart for the next time that they play. So I just thought that's a funny little bonus one they added. In the manga, Zamasu is shown studying Goku, watching him on the Kami tube. He's watching him fight Hit. Now, this scene does happen in both the anime and the manga, but in the anime, it actually happens a little bit later on, and it's Gowasu who's watching Goku when Zamasu just happens to walk in. In the manga, the scene is important because it's used to show his introduction to Goku. He had heard him mentioned by name from Kaioshin, and now he's looking into who is this mortal that apparently is so powerful. And of course, this will then fuel him further into, enacting his plan, as well as choosing Goku for his target. In the anime, Whis and Beerus are back on their world when they receive the call for Goku from Zeno-sama. Goku goes to them, then they go to Kaioshinkai to get Kaioshin, and then they finally go. In the manga, everyone is still at Capsule Corp when Kaioshin comes at the request of Beerus, so they can ask him if he knows of any Kaioshin who has a hatred for humanity. This is kind of play for jokes, as he mentions Kibito isn't too fond of them, remembering how he felt offended when Gohan was brought to Kaioshinkai. Beerus says he does have a suspicious face. They're then interrupted by the call for Goku, and then they head out.
なぜ人間を信じない？お茶は心の鏡だ。心曇ったまま入れたお茶はかように濁るもの。この濁り、恐れか、迷いか？
While Goku is visiting Zeno-sama, we get a scene that is only in the anime, but is honestly one of my favorite scenes in this entire story. Goas and Zamasu discussing their feelings towards humanity. You not only get a deeper understanding of Zamasu's hatred, but also an understanding of Goas's wisdom and failure to prevent Zamasu from doing what he does. He sees the hatred, but doesn't want to give up hope. It's just a powerful and wonderfully written scene. Now, upon arrival, they meet, of course, Dai Shinkan-sama. I think the English is, the Grand Minister. And, when they mention he's so powerful, Goku, of course, whoa, I want to fight him. And Whis is like, relax. And then Goku brings up a really interesting point in the manga. He's like, you guys are so powerful. Why don't we ask them for some advice on how to handle Goku, Black? What should we do about this person? And he's like, we are angels. We cannot take part in mortal affairs. Basically, we cannot fight, despite the fact that we're really powerful. So this, of course, is a huge reveal. Like angels, that's like a really interesting thing. This does not happen in the anime until much, 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 much later on, this reveal that he's an angel. Continuing with some interesting differences. Now, the anime, for those who, who have watched it, part of the story is also kind of the mystery. Who is Goku Black? Yeah, Zama seems like he's a bad person, but we don't know how his plan worked. Like, how did he have Goku's body under his control or whatever was actually happening? The manga really doesn't go this route. For example, right now where we left off, Zamasu is shown while Gowasu is by himself having some tea and chilling. He goes to meet Zuno and starts asking about the Dragon Balls. This information reaches Kibito, who then says, I just heard that Zamasu has visited Zuno asking about the Super Dragon Balls and if it's possible to switch bodies with a mortal. So it's like, they don't even hide it. They're right out saying, okay, we figured out that he's the one behind all this. And it's something I think the anime handles better. There are pros and cons to each, I think. You could say that the manga doing this just wants to get to the point much faster so they can just get to the fighting and the why he did it as opposed to the how he did it. But I do think a fun part in the anime were all the reveals that happened along the way. When you first meet Goku Black, we don't know who he is. And then you think, okay, something to do with Zamasu. Then you meet the second Zamasu and you go, whoa, who's Goku Black then? And if Zamasu is here, it's just that extra part of the mystery I thought was a lot of fun. Because of this immediately prompts Beerus and Whis to go visit Universe 10 to confront Zamasu. So that again is pushing that a little bit faster, where we have the first trip to the future. Then after they come back is when Beerus is like, all right, I'm going to go destroy Zamasu then. He makes that decision after their first trip. So real quick, in the anime, they make 3 trips to the future. Their first trip, they have to come back, after getting beaten up. They go back a second time, they come back, they do training, and then they go back the third time, the final fight there. In the manga, there are only 2 trips. They take their initial trip, they come back, getting their asses handed to them, train, go back, and that's it. And that's the final confrontation. So there is an extra trip added to the anime. Now, you might say, well, that just means they're dragging it out. Hear me out on this one. I will, throughout the rest of this video, praise the manga more than the anime. The manga is far superior than the anime. But the anime adding this extra trip, they did not do this for filler. This is some really good stuff here, and we're about to get to it. So the end of this chapter, we do get an extra by Toyotaro, and this time it's a comedy one, and it's really funny. It shows that Zama's first choice, of course this is just a joke, it's not what probably happened, was to use the Super Dragon Balls and switch with the most powerful mortal he could find. And it shows him having changed bodies with Monaka, and that he says, what? I'm not strong at all. Referring back to when Gowasu and Zamasu are watching the Universe 6 versus 7 stuff, Gowasu brings up the fact that, by the way, Monaka, he's the one who won the entire tournament, leaving out all the rest. So kind of hinting that when Zamasu heard this, he went, Monaka's more powerful than Goku and hit. And therefore, he decided to take Monaka's body, but, it was the wrong choice. He even has an extra bit of dialogue here where he says, I guess I should have went with my first choice, which was Goku. So I just think it's a cute little extra at the end of the chapter. We now get to our first trip into the future. Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks hop in the time machine, head to the future. When they arrive in the anime, they are met by a group of survivors. This group of survivors does not exist in the manga. There are pros and cons to this. The con being that, yeah, it slows the pacing down a lot. We spend a chunk of that first episode when they arrive with these survivors. But the pro is that it adds more emotional depth to the story, seeing this group of survivors, still holding out hope that things will turn out all right. So I do think there are pros and cons to both. Anyway, in both versions, Vegeta's the first to fight Goku Black. In the anime, he gets serious right from the get-go. Boom, Super Saiyan Blue. Goku Black applauds, saying, wow, I'm impressed. Now, of course, in the anime, Goku Black knows Vegeta and Goku's existence. Therefore, he was anticipating their arrival. in the manga, he has no idea what's happening. You know, for all he knows in this timeline, Goku and Vegeta are supposed to be dead. Why are they here? He has no idea what's happening. So it's a lot different. But in the anime, there is something, of course, I think is kind of dumb, and that is the power scaling. Like, so you have Vegeta goes blue, Black stays in base form, and is like easily just handling him. He's like, yeah, sure, you're Super Saiyan Blue, that's cool. How did he get that strong? It doesn't make much sense. But let's talk about Super Saiyan Blue. So in the manga, Vegeta goes only Super Saiyan against Goku Black. Again, Super Saiyan Blue in the manga has kind of a whole sub-story to it. In the anime, it's just Super Saiyan Blue. You know, Goku and Vegeta use it during the Universe 6 versus 7 like it's nothing. But in the manga during the Universe 6 versus 7, it's pointed out that Blue is very powerful, but has limitations as they have not fully been able to control it. It takes a lot of stamina to use it. They can't maintain it for long periods of time. In the anime, they use it all the time. They just go Super Saiyan Blue and the whole fight they'll stay blue. But in the manga, part of the story in this is that they can't control Blue yet. It's a really interesting story that does get resolved in this story arc. But anyway, so in the manga, as I said, he goes Super Saiyan Vegeta. He has the lightning around him, so it's kind of like Super Saiyan 2, I guess you could say, but you know, they just say Super Saiyan. Goku Black goes Super Saiyan, and Goku and Vegeta kind of have a comment saying, oh, blonde, as in that's all you can do is Super Saiyan. It's a back and forth fight, pretty evenly matched, to be honest, which is interesting. You know, in the anime, they're making it seem that Goku Black doesn't even need to go Rose. Like, he's pretty much in control. But in the manga, it's a back and forth fight. And because it's a back and forth fight, Vegeta gets serious and goes Super Saiyan Blue. He absolutely decimates Goku Black after going blue. We then get something interesting in the manga is that we start bouncing back and forth during this fight with Beerus visiting Universe 10 with Whis. So it's very cinematic. Like, I can picture this like almost like a movie. You know, you have the fighting going on, and at the same time, this story's going on, and it keeps going back and forth. They confront Zamasu, and it's a lot different. You know, in the anime, this happens after the first trip. And Beerus is like, fine, I'll take care of everything. I'll go destroy him. Trunks is like, I don't think it's going to work, because Trunks knows how time travel actually works. Here, basically, Beerus just goes right to Zamasu. They don't have him do the whole wait to see if he kills Gowasu and rewind time. He just goes right to Zamasu, and we're like, we know what your plan is. And then Zamasu is like, you'll never stop me. Like, kind of a little bit very villain-like thing to do. And then Beerus destroys him. Kaioshin shows up, and they're like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I've been looking into the future. Did not know he could do that, but apparently he can. I've been looking into the future, and there's somebody helping Goku Black. And they're like, what? You mean he has someone, someone on his side? Cut back to the fighting. Vegeta's about to kill Zamasu with a final flash. A hand comes in and pulls them out of the way. Cut back to Kaioshin, and he's like, there's another Zamasu. And then, of course, we see in the manga there is another Zamasu. Beerus is like, I just killed Zamasu. How is there another one? And then Kaioshin actually explains everything to us. He basically says that Goku Black is from our timeline before you destroyed him, without you destroying him, how the timelines work, and that he took Goku's body, jumped into the future there. Then, in that future, he kills all the gods, but there's still a Zamasu there, hence why there's a Zamasu from that timeline and a Zamasu from our timeline. So it does make a lot of sense when they explain it to us. However, the anime does it via flashback later when, Zamasu and Black tell about their story to us and we see it play out. At the end of the chapter, Toyotaro does his best to help us understand it further by giving us an actual illustration as the extra saying, okay, here are the timelines. And it's the exact same thing Kaioshin explained. I just don't think they needed to have Kaioshin explain. They could have just used the extra that Toyotaro gave and it actually, in visuals, exactly same thing. But anyway, after Zamasu shows up, then Goku Black basically says, now I'm starting to get stronger. He's like, he heals him. Zamasu heals Goku Black. And Goku Black healing is important. Zamasu was a Kaioshin in training. He was not a Kaioshin, something that will be brought up later in the manga to be more clear. It's the same in the anime, but it's just more clear in the manga. And Kaioshins that are still in training can heal. That's part of their bonus, I guess. And then when they get promoted to a Kaioshin, a Supreme Kai, if you will, they lose that power somehow. I'm not making it up. It's in the manga. Anyway, he heals Goku Black. He shows the Ring of Time. And he basically says, there are 5 parallel universes, and we have to make sure we destroy all of them. He then puts the thing in the box, and there's a 6th ring in there. And he goes, what? He's like, why is there a new ring in the box? Hinting that every time something changes, a new ring appears. And we learn that there are only 5 timelines. Basically, in the world of Dragon Ball, there are only 5 timelines. Now there are 6. And then Vegeta, boom, appears behind him. And he's like, that's probably because Beerus in our timeline killed you. And it therefore created a new timeline. So Vegeta's pretty much understanding time travel quite well. Goku Black then's like, now I'm even stronger than before. That's part of the Saiyan, genes that he has. But then he also says that the more time he spends in Goku's body, the more that their, I guess you could say, their DNA and their genes are kind of fully linking. This is something that Toriyama did a long time ago when Ginyu took Goku's body. He couldn't fully control it. Goku does the whole speech like, yeah, it's not, the body and mind are not in sync. But then gradually Ginyu starts getting the hang of it, because the body and the mind start getting more in sync. So I think it makes sense that Goku Black and Zamasu are more and more Goku's body's, coming into sync with it. And therefore he goes, and now I can do something I couldn't do. That's why Vegeta was about to kill him. He literally could not do this before. And he goes, boom, Super Saiyan Rose. And that is really cool. We even get Zamasu commenting, explaining it to the audience, basically more exposition, saying, so this is what it looks like when a god surpasses Super Saiyan God. So basically this, instead of turning blue, it turns pink. So I do think it's pretty, cool how they do it there.
どうだこの色美しいだろお前らのセンスに合わせて名付けるとしたらロゼそうスーパーサイヤ人ロゼ
As I said in the anime, Goku Black just goes Rose. He doesn't really have reason to do it, he just does it, and then he just pummels Vegeta. So in both versions, he does basically pummel Vegeta after wearing Rose. It's kind of the same thing happens. However, Zamasu is not there yet. After he does defeat him is when Goku has no choice but to step in. Goku has to also fight. That does not happen. And Goku Black is about to kill Goku when Zamasu just steps in. He's like, no, don't. Again, the manga just has a better handling on this story, I feel. But both versions basically have a Zamasu show up and then surprise the audience. Of course, that in the anime, as I said, the big thing is who is who. If Zamasu is here, who's Goku Black? But we still get to that same point. And then from here, both of them basically just get annihilated. Goku, Vegeta, and hell, even Trunks. They all get their asses handed to them. Where it does go very differently is Vegeta nearly gets killed. I mean, there's the anime is not that bad, honestly. So the fight is really good. It's good action. And we get the whole, Goku Black impales Vegeta, nearly killing him. Goku then, of course, gets his ass kicked as well. And it's up to Trunks to basically make sure they get out of there. But then Trunks gets beaten down. And it's a matter of getting, Trunks, Goku, and Vegeta, their 3 unconscious bodies, into the time machine and then send it back to the present before it's too late, while Mai is, staying behind. In the manga, however, Vegeta does get completely beaten, knocked out. Goku never does. It's Goku who says, we got to return and, regroup, basically. And then Trunks stays behind, and he's like, all right, you guys go, I'll hold them off somehow. And then Goku takes Vegeta's body and heads back to the present. So a really big difference for me personally, is the imagery. In the manga, they arrive and Goku has Vegeta's body. And of course, Bulma's like, what about Trunks? He's like, he stayed behind. And then they have to, get a senzu. They have to heal Vegeta. In the anime, the imagery is perfect. The time machine arrives and then you have Trunks, Goku, Vegeta all completely out cold, looking like they might even be dead. It's just like that image there of our heroes, all 3 of them returning, but then just boom, they're all out. It's just really more of a grim image there. And I do like that a lot more there. So I hope you guys enjoyed part 1 of this episode. Sorry for the long runtime, but as I said, there are just so many differences in this story. So what differences from this first half stood out the most for you? Which differences did you like better? Let me know in the comments below. Part 2 will be coming soon, so look forward to that. As always, like, subscribe, and share, and see you soon.